the issues with this team. And I alluded to some of the issues, right? Turnovers are a huge thing. Like I said, this team loves to get into position where they can get some points, right? Field goals are points. Field goals could help you win games. But then for whatever reason, they turn the ball over. They do something dumb. They're not keeping the ball like they should. You look at the Dallas game. The Dallas game and the Jets game were two huge examples of how getting into opposing territory is huge, right? What was the game? It was 33-13, right? Now, do I think the Eagles were going to beat the Cowboys? No. That team was out for blood. That team was out for revenge. That team wanted to beat us, right? They had our number. I didn't really expect to win that game, to be honest. I didn't. I really didn't. But you're not going to win games when the leadership on your team turns the ball over the way that the Eagles did. You know, Jalen Hurts, you're supposed to hold the ball. You're the leader of this team. You fumbled. It was a stupid fumble. A.J. Brown, right? He'll have 2 or 3 fumbles a season. He had one of them in this game. Devontae Smith was the one. Now, Devontae Smith was the one that I was that I was surprised about, because that dude has shown throughout his career that he doesn't fumble, that he usually makes plays, he usually makes catches, but he fumbled in that game too. Now, at least with Devontae Smith's fumble, it really was meaningless because we were already losing by like almost 3 possessions. So there was like 5 minutes left in the game. We probably weren't going to win. So it wasn't that big of a deal to me. But in terms of the other two, they were pretty big. And what is the common denominator here? It's the fact that they both occurred on the opposing side of the field, where you could have gotten at least a field goal. Now, was a field goal going to do it against the Cowboys in that game? Probably not. But at least with the first one, you had a chance of possibly getting a touchdown to tie the game. Same thing happened against the Jets. We get too many tip passes. That's another big thing. I think there's been 2 or 3 interceptions this season, primarily based on tip passes. That can't happen. That cannot happen. Running the ball. Running the ball has been a huge thing. I've always had this running theory that and a lot of people have alluded to this. A lot of people who like listen to some of these theories, that Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, does not want to be a running football team. He wants to be a passing football team. What was the story? The story was when the first time the Eagles ever beat Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay Packers, which they had never beaten Aaron Rodgers before. They played a game in Green Bay, and it was in Green Bay too. And it was on Thursday Night Football. Carson Wentz had like little less than 200 passing yards. He had 3 passing touchdowns, and what was it? Jordan Howard just had a massive game. Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders just had massive games. For a while, Jordan Howard was my favorite player on this team. Like, bar none, my favorite player. You give Jordan Howard the ball, Jordan Howard will get at least 4 yards. Without fail. And there was a story about at the end of the game when the Eagles won by like 3 points. It's famous like Nigel Bradham interception of Aaron Rodgers on the last play of the game. That Jeffrey Lurie was unhappy because Carson Wentz didn't have a big passing game. And that was like right when the Eagles paid him. It makes a lot of sense at this point. it kind of makes a lot of sense because at the end of the Reed era, the Eagles were not a running football team. There would be games where the Eagles would play against a team that was really bad against the run. They'd lose by like 3, and they'd throw the ball like 60 times a game. Similar things would happen under Doug Peterson, where they just abandoned the run. They wouldn't use Jordan Howard. They wouldn't use the running game. Same thing at the very beginning under the Sirianni years, where the Eagles would never run the ball. And now I know that you don't run the ball if you're down, but like some of these games were extremely close and they abandoned the run way too quickly. A lot of that makes sense at this point. It's starting to make a lot of sense, right? And you can only bully the team as much, like, and I remember during that first year with Sirianni, a lot of people were just bullying this dude to call more running plays. Right? The Eagles had the most yards rushing that season because they bullied the coaching staff. But I think that in some ways, the owner still wants things. And sometimes it gets to the point where the owner's picking the players and the players just aren't really that good. Like what Jeffrey Lurie wanted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who did not become a good player. So that's a big problem if that's true. If that's not true, then I'm sorry. But if that's true, it's what are we doing? Jalen Hurts has been a problem. Again, like forcing passes, like for whatever reason, like last year, I don't know if he forced too many passes last year. He had 7 interceptions. He's got like 13 or 14 this year, right? He's essentially switched places with Dak Prescott from last year. He's like the Dak Prescott of last year, this year. And I think it's total karma because Eagles fans were making fun of Dak Prescott all of last season, and this year he only has like 7. He's the one who has 7 interceptions. Maybe it's the fact that last year guys would drop interceptions. This year they ain't dropping them. No, they ain't dropping them. Right? They're making sure that they get the extra stick 'em on their hands. But he's been a problem. He's been an issue. He's turned the ball over at just a record rate. It almost reminds me of the end of the Michael Vick years or the end of the Carson Wentz years, minus the fact that he can get 1-yard plays off of that tush push, right? Any 4th and 1 for the Eagles or 4th and 1.5, it's obtainable. Like it's just gonna happen, to the chagrin of many. But these are problems that exist on the Eagles that don't exist on some of these other teams like the Lions, the Cowboys, the 49ers, right? Where they're usually doing the right thing to win. Where I feel like their head is more in the game. And I'm not going to go ahead and be like, well, look at the Chiefs. I don't care about that, dude. That's so irrelevant to me. The Chiefs have their own problem. Let them deal with it. Let them wallow in their own misery. I don't care about that. I care about this team right here and the success of this team right here. And like I said before, if the Eagles go out and play the way that they have been in the past, they're not going to the conference championship game. They're not going back to the Super Bowl. Unless this team shows me against the Cardinals and then against the Giants again that they can come to play. I don't know what else to say. I I don't. I don't. Well, good teams find a way to win. Awesome. Some of those other teams, they're blowing teams out. 20, 30, 40 points. Meanwhile, the Eagles have yet to beat a team by more than 17. It's great to beat the Chiefs. It's great to beat Andy Reid. It's great to beat Josh Allen. It's great to beat Tua. You know what it's also great to do? It's great to win the other games. Play sound football. Don't make mistakes. Don't put your players in a position to make mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. Something that this team hasn't done all season long. That's why I know that every game the Eagles are going to turn the ball over 1, 2, maybe even 3 times. You're not playing like conference champions. You're not playing like you belong. Show me that you can play like you belong.